pretty much everybody in sports media has you being traded this upcoming year. So they're just assuming that you're going to want to come back and play football. Now, a lot of our conversation last week was thrown away. Strictly, nobody listened to it. They did hear the clip, though, where you said you still think you could play at an MVP level. When I asked you, physically, do you think you could still play? And that came shortly after you said, if you're not playing to win it all, why are you playing at all? So have you already come to the decision that you're playing football again next year? Is that already something that's taken place? Because the decision has been made that you're getting traded by sports media as of this morning. And I feel like there's another decision that has to be made before any of that can take place. Where are you in that stance, and are you in the middle of that process still?
Usually you would think they would wait until maybe the off week between the championship weeks and the Super Bowl to drum up some storylines, because there is, 2 great games this Sunday and obviously 4 really deserving teams to be playing. I have, some people that love to track that stuff, so I've been made aware of it. Go ahead. You just pointed, AJ.
No, he's got the next question. Yeah,
he's got the next
question.
I'll finish this.
Yeah.
But listen. There's heroes and villains in sports and entertainment, and I think because of my stance on COVID and maybe some other things, I've been cast as the villain, especially the last few years. And so that is the way that, a lot of things I said are often interpreted. I'm not upset about that. I don't feel like a victim in any way. I don't have that mentality. That's fine. I actually embrace that role a little bit, if that's how you want to cast me. But I did see there were some comments that, I'm only playing for MVPs and stuff like that. Didn't maybe quite see the entire clip of some of the stuff that I said. I don't care about that stuff. It doesn't offend me. I mean, this culture, this woke culture wants to be offended by everything. You just go online and find something you don't agree with. I'm offended. How could you possibly say that?
Yes.
I don't really care. I don't care who it's coming from or who said it. They're entitled to their opinion. It might not be right. And every now and then you got to get on here and say, hey, you found some bullshit, like, that's just not true. Like, let's just tone it back a little bit. You might need to do that. Most of the time, you just kind of gloss over it. Who cares? It doesn't really matter. Because it honestly doesn't matter. It doesn't affect my day-to-day. It doesn't interrupt my whale-watching time. It doesn't interrupt me at all during the day. I don't think, agonize about, like, Gronk said, I shouldn't be worrying about MVPs. I'm like, I know Gronk. I love Gronk. He's awesome. He's fun energy to be around. Like, but what do they do? If you take the right sound bite from the right thing, and it's a station that may or may not have in the past been brought to you by Pfizer, then they got to make sure that their villain, gets cast in the correct light. And whether or not they're, sponsored by Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, whatever it might be.
What?
When you go up against some of those powers that be, you put yourself in the crosshairs. They're going to paint you in a certain way. And that's what the media did to me a couple of years ago. That's fine. That's their prerogative. That's what they want to do. But I think I responded, pretty good in those times. And I'm glad I went through that. And anything that comes after that, small potatoes, bro.
Okay, so obviously, I'm happy you cleared the air on that whole thing. We agree. You said a lot about wanting to win, and physically, you were able to still play at an MVP level, you thought. And that was the question that I posed. So also, we are in the blame
Also,
game.
let me say, Patty, let me say this. I don't mean to cut you off because I love you and you're so good at this. But I was reminded when you said that of just one thing. Everybody wants to win MVP. Everybody who plays the game wants to be MVP. Like, yeah, you want to win a championship, 100%. Like, you want to go down in history on a championship football team. But everybody wants to win MVP too, any sport. You want to be recognized as the best of the best. Anyone who says they don't is lying or non-competitive. And either one of those, I don't want to be a part of. So everybody who plays wants to be the best, wants to be recognized. And then if you don't win it, you always say the right thing. Oh, it's more important to win championships, But, of course, everybody wants to win it. There's been a lot of guys who played the game, they haven't got an MVP vote. Like, and you can rest on the championships you won, but you still want to be recognized as the best.
Aaron, I'd like to let you know, though, there's only like 10 of you guys every single year that have an actual chance to win that thing. So I think what you're saying is if you're in the conversation to potentially win an MVP or an award, you would like to win that award. Because I want to let you know, I played a good 8 years in that league, NFL. I mean, there was one year I thought maybe I had an MVP for chance.
Sure.
No shot. No shot of me winning. AJ, you had a couple opportunities there. You were racking up. But what you're saying is the people that are in that conversation, it's a real thing. Because
Yeah, it's a quarterback award. It's more of a quarterback award. Obviously, Barry Sanders, shared it with Favre in '98, and AP won it in 2012. But it's few and far between. It's mostly the best quarterback who's had the best year. I totally understand it. That to be said, there's also other awards. Pro Bowl has kind of become more of a joke in more recent years because you have third and fourth alternates going to the Pro Bowl multiple years, and that kind of hasn't, that kind of takes some shine off. But All Pro for sure. All Pro is definitely, especially for linemen, for yourself, for punters, for receivers. It seems like All Pro usually gets it right, who the best of the best for the most part.
Well, obviously they don't matter. And when you act like they matter, people get mad at you for acting like they matter. But then whenever they're voting on Hall of Fame or legacies or how you remembered, all those things are brought up literally, bam. Like, oh, you mean this guy not good? He won this many All Pros, this many MVP. I was like, well, I thought those titles didn't matter. Well, they do matter whenever you're remembered for the rest of it. It's a fascinating thing. And you answered that in a much different part of the conversation than about that whole thing. Now back to the rest of that whole part of that whole thing. It's already been decided you're getting traded by sports media. Schefter, Peter King has talked about it. Both those guys very dialed in. I don't think with your side of the entire thing, but certainly dialed in with teams everywhere. Have you got to a point where you even know if you want to play football still, or is that still something that you're going through the whole process? Because Tom Brady was asked by Jim Gray, and he said, Jim, if I knew what the fuck I wanted to do, I would have already done it. It's not easy to make that decision. I think you've had to battle it every single year here for the last couple of years. Tom has obviously had to battle it the last couple of years. That whole part of your thing is just getting tossed to the side whenever we're assuming you're getting traded. Are you still in the middle of that process, or has that been completed and you told somebody and they told Shefty and Peter and everybody?
First of all, kudos to you for talking through the coffee machine that was just cleaning itself before turning off. So,
shout out to the future having cleaning coffee. Yeah, I mean, that is awesome.
The choices. That was a gift, by the way.
Coffee.
Listen, I think anytime you make a decision, you have to try and take the emotion out of it. And there's emotions with the end of season, with the end of runs with certain teams, with the end of specific teammates who might be moving on or end of a contract, and obviously, the way that the season ends, on the field is also emotional. So I think it's always important to take time and get away from it. If there was a timetable where I was told I got to make up my mind in 2 weeks, then I would have came to a decision. It would have been much more difficult for sure. But I think, Tom's been playing a long, long time. He deserves the right to take as much time as he need. I've been playing a little bit less time, I think 5 or 6 years. I still think that, should warrant, the ability to take some time to make this decision and to weigh all the options. I don't think you can wake up on January 24th and say, all right, I'm ready to, go run this thing back. I think even when you're in the midst of a career, in the middle of a career, there's always, moments where you're like, man, I need a couple more months, not to figure out if you want to play or not, but just like before that mindset kicks in, where you're like, oh man, I'm really going to go do this again in April and this thing. I just think you need time to kind of decompress. At least I do. Maybe other people are differently, but I need time to decompress. Doesn't mean you totally let yourself go like AJ did when he retired, but you take a little bit of time and just kind of let the off season start to sink in, and then at some point make that decision. But yeah, all the other ideas about trade and whatnot, that's all conjecture until I even decide what I want to do moving forward for myself.